So we've talked about this before. The quote-unquote establishment left news media is apologizing for Hillary Clinton, what have you. They're reporting on Donald Trump's sexual escapades 24/7. They're not going into the WikiLeaks like they're supposed to, and they're giving a pass to Hillary Clinton. And here is so Chris Hayes did a whole segment on the WikiLeaks, and he spent most of the time talking about where the Russian hacks. And if Trump is working for Russia. Anyway, I want him to go into that. But here he brings on Glenn Greenwald. What's good for Chris Hayes? He brings on someone to straighten him out because he's against these WikiLeaks. He's uncomfortable with it. And here's what he says. Let's listen.
Driven pretty clearly with the intent of doing this. Whoever did it, I mean, I don't know if it's the Russians or not, but whoever did it really did want to have the effect they're having.
Right. But
so his big objection is that I don't want to help someone who has an agenda, right? Well, so you got these emails from John Podesta because you want to influence the election, so I'm not going to report on them because that person who got these emails has an agenda, which is stupid, which is not what journalists are supposed to do. You're not supposed to care where it comes from. Like, the Pentagon Papers, right? So that was, you're not allowed to steal that stuff or whatever where it came. That guy definitely had an agenda who took the papers and gave it to the New York Times. He definitely had an agenda. It doesn't matter what the person's agenda is. It matters you now have information and you're a journalist. Here we go.
I mean, this is a pretty common problem in journalism. I mean, when Daniel Ellsberg leaked the Pentagon Papers, he didn't just take a few sheets. He took thousands and thousands and thousands of pages and gave it to the New York Times, and they picked the parts that they thought ought to be published. Same with us and the Snowden archive. Right. We curated it. We went through it carefully. I think that's common. Sources give information, but still, the Pentagon Papers were taken without authorization. They were sort of stolen, right, and no one would say the New York Times shouldn't publish them.
But the issue we have here, I mean, this seems to be more in this category, right? So there's Snowden revelations. There's these sort of whistleblower category, right? Ellsberg, Snowden, Chelsea Manning, right? Conscience, right?
So it sounds like Chris is on board with those, which would be news to most people that because John Kerry, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, they want Snowden in jail. They put Chelsea Manning's in jail right now, and they tortured the hell out of him. Snowden's got to live in Russia, and Assange is in an Ecuadorian thing. Here we go.
Then there's a category, the Sony hack, right? Pretty clearly someone wanted to hack Sony to punish them for releasing a film about North Korea and massively embarrassed them, successfully got them to rescind the film. You've got the climate.
So that's different to me. That's not the government. Even though people at Sony are powerful, it's not the staff. I don't vote for them. They're not in my government. They don't have power over me. They can't jail me. I don't pay taxes to them. Those aren't the same things.
Hack in which random climate scientists are hacked to discredit their work. And now this, and it seems like the press has a different role to play because it feels like there's an alley-oop being set up in which the press puts the ball through the hoop to achieve the aim of an actor who is up to something that is nefarious.
Yeah, so the guy who took the Pentagon Papers, he was up to something. That's okay. Well, I think Glenn's going to straighten him out.
Right. I mean, I think the reason why this is a hard thing to think about is because there are two really profoundly important values. On the one hand, the need to impose transparency on powerful actors, which certainly includes people like John Podesta and Hillary Clinton, and arguably even people like high-level Sony officials. And on the other hand, the need to protect individual privacy. And the more transparency you have, the less privacy you have. And I think the important trade-off as journalists that you always have to assess is this person powerful enough to justify the invasion of privacy from publishing, and is the material enough in the public interest? And every journalist, if they're careful, is going to grapple with those questions. And a lot of times it's hard.
Wait, but then let me ask you this question, because I think this is an important one. Does John Podesta have a right to privacy?
I think he has a lesser right to privacy than the average person on the street.
So I don't understand that line of questioning that Chris just did. I'm going to nitpick. He goes, so do you think John Podesta has a right to privacy? And he says, I think he has a lesser right than Chris. Really? You really think that? Yeah, he just said it, Chris. Do you think he's going to go, no, you're right. Thanks for saying really. Like, what do you do? Why are you interrupting him? Let him answer. He's in fucking Brazil. Would you let him answer? He's on a satellite delay. And he's saying, I think it's like, really? Really? You really think that? Oh, you know what? That's a good argument. Really? I guess I'll change my mind. What are you doing? Anyway, I know I'm being nitpicky. And by the way, kudos to Chris for bringing Glenn on and straightening him out, right? So most people wouldn't do that. He's doing it. So look at me being fair.
By virtue of the fact he's one of the most powerful people on the planet, Chris. If Hillary Clinton wins, as is very likely, he's going to be in the seat of power in the White House in less than 3 months. And so what he does and how he, shapes public opinion and what he's plotting in terms of policy and what they're telling the public and not telling the public, these are critically important things. Of course, everybody would say that the more powerful you are, the less privacy you have. It doesn't mean he has no privacy. Some of that stuff should not have been published. And that's the problem with WikiLeaks is they don't curate. They just dump everything.
Right.
But of course, the more powerful you are, the more transparency you deserve.
So listen to what Glenn just said. He's talking about John Podesta, who's running Hillary Clinton's campaign. By the way, he's considered the one of the top 3 most powerful lobbyists in the world. He's a powerful guy. And he's going to be right at the seat of power. Hillary Clinton's going to win. And he's running her campaign. He's going to be right at the seat of power. Running their surveillance state. Hillary Clinton's been running the surveillance state. She's part of the administration that's running the surveillance state. Okay? There you go. Okay? She was a senator. I'm sure she voted for the Patriot Act. Of course she did. I'll look it up. But I think I'm pretty confident. Could you look it up, Hank, for me? See if Hillary voted for the Patriot Act? But I'm gonna bet $1 million that she did. So there you go. So that's who these people are. They're very super powerful people. They repealed habeas corpus. They're torturing people who expose crimes to our inside our government. And Barack Obama's using the Espionage Act to jail journalists who expose crimes inside our government. So that's who these people are. And yes, they have lesser right to privacy. The people running the surveillance state, they have a lesser right to privacy. That's for sure. That's for sure. Did you find out anything?
No, not yet.
Okay.
If can you imagine? I mean, I guess the question becomes, right, as if this accelerates, right? If you got this sort of like this is now a playbook, and to me, the Sony hack was really a turning point, right? For all the reasons you say, right? Like Sony executives are powerful, but it was clearly done with this goal that actually ended up working. Like, can you imagine? Is there an analogy with the way the media has dealt with
I mean, that's just such a bad idea. Like, so if I publish this information that somebody got for me and it helps their what they want to have done, then I'm not going to publish it just because they want to have something done. Daniel Ellsberg probably wanted to stop the Vietnam War.
I've got an update here. Let's see. It says, according to Wikipedia, Clinton voted for the USA Patriot Act in October 2001 when it was first enacted. In December 2005, when a political battle ensued over its renewal, Clinton supported a general filibuster against it on the grounds that the renewal legislation did not appropriate enough money to New York for anti-terrorism efforts.
So she stood up for it for the wrong reasons. She didn't. She supported a filibuster of it for the wrong reasons.
She like local politics. It sounds like
because she wanted more money, not because she was upset about the unconstitutionality of it.
Yeah, right. It was just she needed more money for her state. But yeah, she was for it in 2001.
Okay.
Of course.
Propaganda. And this is what I've been thinking about. So for a while, anytime ISIS released a video, it was like, look, this is news. They murdered this person in this horrible way. And at a certain point, it was like, we're not going to be complicit in this essentially awful act that they want us to publish these things, even though, frankly, there's an argument that an ISIS snuff film is newsworthy.
But again, it's a balancing process. So to see someone from ISIS slit somebody's throat or cut their head off for the 15...
And by the way, that's mixing apples and oranges. When ISIS releases a snuff film, that's not really a leak. Right? That's them putting out propaganda. And by the way, MSNBC has reported that propaganda at face value. I've seen Chris Matthews crap his pants for days on end over a beheading video from ISIS, demanding that the president do something about it. So I've seen that on the MSNBC. We've seen it. And those aren't the same thing. And Chris is all mixed up on this. But again, kudos that he brings on Glenn to straighten him out.
time has very little news value, even if it has some. Whereas the
It does have
damage
some,
that you're
though.
doing, which is incentivizing for it has some, it has a little bit. So it's a balancing process. Whereas the way in which John Podesta and Hillary Clinton are planning to disseminate a public message and then secretly tell people other things, that has huge value. And so it's always this process of trade-offs.
Right. All right.
Okay, so Chris did not understand the difference between a Podesta email and a snuff film from ISIS. So he doesn't understand the difference between a leaked email and propaganda. So that's not nice. That's not good. He won an Emmy for reporting. You think he was, but it's not. Again, he brought on Glenn. Thank God Glenn Greenwald is in the world. Thank God there's still a place that brings him on to talk about this stuff. So I'll give you 2 kudos and 1 minus. How about that?